When making a satellite fascinator, one major thing you need to consider is using a very strong, hard, and firm wire. And sometimes it could be difficult to get a wire that is a bit firm and a bit robust. So what you do is to get two wire if possible. The measurement I use for the satellite fascinator is about 70 inches. That is the measurement of the wire. So what I did, I cut 70 inches into two places, then I glued it side by side, not side by side, but on top of each other. So the second one comes on top of the first one. So I glued it. That is one method. The next method is the tying method, which I'm illustrating now. You can use your needle and thread. Make sure you double it properly. Then you tie both of them together. But before you start tying, if you want to use a tying method, use your hot glue first. Secure the both edges. Then you can be sure that you can comfortably tie. So I tied to an extent I noticed that it was really stressful and time consuming. So I use my hot glue to stick both of them together. I use the first method. So our wire is ready. Let's proceed to the next process. Now let's make the satellite fascinator. Our wire is ready, and what you do next is to overlap the wire, just like I'm doing. Tie both edges together. If you can maneuver uh, tape, you can also use tape to cover that part to overlap your wire. I prefer to use thread because it helps it to stay in place very well. So the next process, I'm not going to talk. I'll just come in where I need to explain. So please watch the video very well so that you can see what I'm trying to do there. So what I'm doing is I'm gathering the fabric against the wire. Okay, remember the black fascinator we made? You can use that gathering method here, but this particular fabric is wide, so it would be difficult for me to just gather. I had to use my needle and thread to form gathers. These gathers, you need to make sure that you are on one lane as you gather so that it will be easy for you to put it together when you are done. So you don't need pegs, you don't need pin. This is just the simplest method to form this satellite fascinator. So when I was gathering the fabric, I had excess thread on one side from the beginning. Okay, so when I also finished, I cut out the excess thread. So from one end to the other end, I had excess thread from the beginning, then excess thread from the end of the gathers. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling both the threads from the opposite side. So that is what will help me to form this plate here. So you have to pull it together. Now if you look, as you can see, this is a different design on its own. This is a whole different design. Okay, with these beautiful gathers, you can just put your base and just finish up. Okay, but that's not what we'll be doing here. Ensure you gather all the parts This will enable the base to be firm. Gather, gather, gather. Do not allow anyone to be left out. That's why you have your thread. As you gather, you pull both edges or both sides of the thread. Pull it together. So I have excess fabric. I'm just going to tie this properly. If you do not have excess thread, just tie your threads together. Tie it together. The both ends of the thread, tie it together. If you don't have excess fabric like I do, so because I had excess fabric coming out, I had to tie. So if you don't, please use your thread to do a knot or to tie it there. So I mentioned this earlier. This is, you can put a base on this, all right? Then just tack down on one side, on the other side, like 4 parts, the east, west, south, and north, before you continue your tacking round. This will help the base to stay put while you tack, but that's not what we're going to be doing. Okay, so in case you also decide to make this design, it's also beautiful with the plate. So here is what we want to achieve here. I'm going to start stitching round. I have my needle and my thread. Here I use the same color or matching color of thread. If you're going to be using your net, you can use any fabric for this project. Tule nets are usually normally used for this satellite fascinator. Velvet is good. Ankara will also be beautiful. Any fabric at all. Okay. So I'm tacking down with my needle and thread. So also do the same. Do the same thing on whatever fabric you decide to use. So I've tacked this down completely. If you look properly, you won't see the thread, because this is velvet. As I stitched it, the thread, and the material, just the fabric, just covered up. How will I put it now? So as I stitched along, the velvet material it rhymed very well with the thread. So what you do next is loose this up, remove the thread, because we have already tacked this down, so you don't have to be afraid. It's not going to open up. Next, we trim off that part. Please do not trim too close to the stitches, otherwise if this goes off, if you touch any stitch there, in fact your work is gone, it's damaged. So can you see where I'm trimming? Make sure you trim far away from the stitches where you stitched. So remember, the stitches we use the zigzag stitch. Okay. I'm done trimming off that part. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach my base down to the brim. So the wide one, we call it the brim, while the base is the crown. You can call it the crown or the base. So I'm just going to, you can decide to stitch, if you prefer to stitch on those 4 sides like I said before, but I'm going to be using my hot glue for this project. If you have your uhu gum, you have to apply it round, allow it to rest for a few seconds before you do this. Make sure you apply your gum generously. You don't have to be stingy. So what I did, I applied it on one side, turn it over. So make sure that the base is fixed in the center. So hold this down. As I'm holding it down, I'm pressing it down to the gum, to the hot glue. Okay, can you see what I'm doing? So this is what we do until you completely go round, and until you're sure that the fabric has glued, has sticked to the base. So you take your hot glue again. Now this is for hot glue. Remember that if you had uhu gum, you would have applied it round and you just hold it. You can also use pegs for this. If your pegs are strong enough, as you try to hold down the place for the gum to stick down, you can use your pegs to hold it. Use your pegs to hold it. Remember I said you can also stitch round. So I have held the base down to the brim. What we'll do next is to cut off the center. Cut off the center. Trim it off. Now where we're trimming is just on the close to where you glued the base down to the brim. Just on that round glue. I've cut out the center, and the next thing to do is to cover this place with your bias. This is called a satin bias, not the usual cotton bias. This part you can also decide to cover it up with trimmings. Okay, now when it comes to bias, you can decide to open it up and just pipe it or stitch it round for that bias. All right, now if you're going to be working with fabric Ankara net, so you open up your bias and you cover it, you pipe it, we call it piping, just stitch it down to the base. Because the reason why I had to cover only the inner part was because my thread was not visible, my thread was not showing. Now if you know that if you stitch with other fabrics with net, you know that the thread will show. So completely cover with your bias, stitch it round. The next process is to attach my lining. Please watch carefully how to attach the lining. Who gum is the best, B6000 and the rest. Okay, so just use the best. If you can also manage the hot glue, you can go for it. I'm done putting this in and I trimmed it off. Always trim off on the edge where you glued. All right. Next thing to do is to attach my elastic. I'll be using elastic for this. Now if you're going to, I think for wide brim like this, it is best to use elastic, except you want to design the center, because that center is where you tack down your Alice band and it won't be looking good. So elastic is just perfect for this for wide brim, and it will also help it to sit properly. Please disregard that pop-up. All right, the right up there, it says attach your Alice band before you put your lining. When you attach your Alice band, there's no way lining can come there. So that right up was there. I think it was just a mistake. So I'm tacking down my elastic. This elastic comes in different elasticity. Like some of them are fatter than the other. It is also sold by milliners, but I will drop a video where you can also make your own elastic in case you can't find the particular one used for fascinators. So the next process right now is to put our embellishment. I use hot glue. Hey God, please don't try this thing with hot glue if you can't manage it. Use your uhu gum. Apply. Make sure you apply on the places that you don't have space. Okay. Raise it up. Apply on the because if you apply it on the places that have a space, it will just ooze out or pop out. So my design has gone in. So you can decide to use any embellishment you want. This is called a sugar patch or sugar lace. That is what we call it over here. You can decide to use anything at all to embellish this. I've also inserted my petroleum ribbon.